Welcome to Big Brave Business. This is the podcast where we answer big questions reshaping entrepreneurship. I'm Sarah K. Heeter, and this is Season 3. Each week, I'm bringing on my friends, mentors, and some of the best thought leaders I know. We dive into bold, values-driven conversations about leadership, equity, ethics, and building businesses that actually make a difference. Ready to do business better? Let's dive in.
Welcome back to Big Brave Business. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you're basically going to think of this guest as like an honorary guest host at this point. But welcome back to the podcast once again to one of my favorite people and one of my favorite podcast guests, Dr. Catrina Mitchum.
Thanks for letting me come back.
I mean, I love it. We have such good, like literally right before we hit record, it was like, should we talk about this instead? I think one of the most beautiful things about this podcast that I love the most is the community that I have now built into my own life of friends and colleagues and peers and mentors who share values, so that this literally is what our friendship is like based on Big Brave Business. And I just love that. So today, we kind of decided we have so many topics we could talk about, but we kind of decided what we're going to do today is like play contrarian a little bit. I have in my bio on Threads podcasting for good troublemakers. And so I think today we're going to a little good trouble. We're going to focus on some contrarian and disruptive questions, as annoying as the word disruptive can be. So let's start with question that I think will be like a way to ease us into this. So, where do you think entrepreneurship culture is lying to people?
Everywhere. That's too easy of a question, Sarah.
Like, what are some examples?
Yeah.
The first thing that you think of when you hear that?
So for me, literally right in this second, it's about choosing the right technology, and that the right technology is this one that I recommend to you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm feeling that right now because I just did a YouTube series with course platform reviews. So I reviewed 15 platforms. They're all garbage.
Mm-hmm.
But I went to, I decided I was just going to close down all of the accounts at once, right? And so this morning, I went to close down my Go High Level. 11 clicks, Sarah. It took me 11 clicks from I want to close the account to them actually letting me close the account. And so to me, the biggest lie is you should have this technology because everybody is using it and it's the best technology. And then they won't let you leave.
Yeah. Oh, not letting you leave feels like a gym membership. But I think there's, so I feel like there's like kind of two layers to this because this is the technology you should be using. I think pretty much anything that's a should in entrepreneurship advice is a trigger for me because anything that's a should is somebody trying to sell you something. So if I say like everyone should have a podcast, then it's because I sell podcasting.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about that is you help people with creating digital courses that actually work. And I don't hear you loving the advice that everyone should have a digital course. So so you like go totally contrarian on that. But I always say like anybody who tells you this is what you need in your business is selling it. So like if people tell you you need a certain email provider or a certain they're either an affiliate or they're straight up selling like a white label version of it.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And yeah, I am so contrarian to the shoulds that I made a quiz that is called "Should you actually have a course in your business?" And sometimes the answer is no. Like I will tell you when it's not a good fit because it takes so much time and energy, just like podcasting does, right? Like
Yeah.
you need to commit to it in order for it to. It's a long game, right?
Yeah.
And so I am the last person that's going to tell you that you should do something that you're just not ready for.
Yeah, yeah. And there's something that builds trust in talking to somebody who is selling something who tells you no.
Yeah. That's true. No, you
which
don't need this.
is interesting. I almost feel like probably there are people who could then take that and warp it into manipulation, which is like so okay. How is entrepreneurship culture lying to people? I'm interested in this word, I guess this phrase, entrepreneurship culture, because I think another thing that jumps into my brain, and I don't know how much of it I really think is a lie, but I know a lot of people would say this, is 10K months. Like 10K
Mm-hmm.
months is such a part of entrepreneurship culture. And I have heard people question this. I'm curious like what you think. Where does this number even come from? Why 10K?
I don't know. I don't know. I guess because it's a nice round number and it does mean you're making over six figures,
Yeah,
right?
and, like,
So it's weird then, like,
8.3333 just doesn't
yeah,
have the same,
exactly. It
like
doesn't have the same ring. So that if I had to fathom a guess, it would be that kind of like the 10,000 steps. Like, where did that actually? Oh,
Yeah,
yeah, that was
true.
from
Yeah,
was a marketing play by a step tracking company, right?
yeah.
Something like that.
Do you feel like entrepreneurship culture lies about 10K months? And if so, what can you elaborate on, like, what is the lie?
I think the lie is that you need that,
Oh,
right? Like
that's a good one.
you get to decide whether or not six figures is even something that you want or need to have in your life. I also think that maybe the double-edged lie is that if you do want that, you have to hustle for it.
Mm, that's so opposite. That's so interesting, but keep going.
Yeah. I just think it's a load of crap. Like, why? It's such an arbitrary number. Like, you should be looking at your own personal finances and what you need and want in order to determine what that number should look like. And also, my business income has never been that consistent. Like, it's never been like this amount every single month.
So interesting. I think I built a business based on recurring revenue, so I've been very, very fortunate in that
Hmm.
way of, like, having relatively consistent months. Now, of course, like, have turnover, right? And I have surges of new clients, and I have, like, a difference between what the monthly, at least so far, we're talking about switching this, but a difference between the monthly recurring rate versus the onboarding fee, like, that launch fee is an initial
Hmm.
investment, and I think that there are months where I have a couple of launch fees and it's like that's gonna look a little different, but generally
Yeah.
speaking, I have been fairly consistent. It's so funny that you said part of the lie of entrepreneurship culture is hustle, because I was gonna say part of the lie of entrepreneurship culture is that it's easy. But but part
Mm.
of the reason why I'm struggling on whether this is a lie or not, even though I think it's what a lot of people would say, is that I do feel like it's a way easier way to have the opportunity to make six figures than to go get a six-figure job. I think just going out into the job market, I think a lot of entrepreneurs are experiencing, or former entrepreneurs are experiencing this right now. Like, I predicted at the beginning of the year going into the end of last year that one of my predictions for 2026 was a mass exodus from online entrepreneurship, and I'm totally seeing it. Like, actually, in fact, a handful of people who were guests in the past year are either announcing that they're applying to jobs, or they've announced that they've taken a job, or they've secretly, or not secretly, I don't want to say it like that, but like quietly taken it. Now I sound like AI. Quietly taken a job and not announced it. And people think, "Oh, I could just go get a job," and it's like, I actually
Mm.
think it's so much easier to make decent money from entrepreneurship. Now, that said, there are a lot of people not making money, so I understand that that comes from a relative place of privilege of the fact that I have made money, but I think it could be fixed. I think pretty much anybody could make money from entrepreneurship.
Yeah. I think it also depends on, like, if you were to go get a job, what field you're in, because I don't know many teachers that make six figures unless you live in the state of California where you need to
Mhm.
in order to survive, or around the DC area, so in the same situation. I think maybe like the bigger lie that we're dancing around is that it has to look a certain way.
Mm, mhm.
Because like we're talking about entrepreneurship in terms of online businesses, but there are a lot of in-person businesses as well. And I think they sometimes fall into that trap of it has to look a certain way. food trucks are an example, right? Of where it didn't actually have to look a certain way. And now that's booming.
That's kind of what's fun about entrepreneurship, I think, is like whatever it is you want to do, how could it look different? And I think
Yeah.
even a really good coach, which I know is fiercely, this is a whole other thing we can get into, but a really good coach would ask you questions about, but what if it did look like
Yeah.
whatever you think can't happen, but what if it could?
What if it did?
What
Yeah.
would that look like? And getting, I think the people who are really excavating that and who are really truly being disruptors, and that's why it's partially why it's such an annoying word, I think are the ones who find business opportunity.
Yeah.
It's not always. Some people, there has to be a need.
I think sometimes it's about finding the right gap to pick at, right? And getting angry enough about there not being the right solution to actually figure out what the solution might be. I think food trucks also, I'm just going to go back to food trucks. Look, maybe I need to go eat. I think food trucks have also opened it up for other types of mobile things, right? Which also makes things more accessible in a lot of ways to rural areas and things like that. So
Yeah.
I I agree. I think that certain people have like you have to be able to see the patterns, I think, in order to be able to notice the things that might be possible in order to make a change or make something different that will work. And also be really comfortable with things not working,
Yeah.
right? I think one of the things that has served me best in business is the idea of making everything a game, right? Everything for me is playing and iterating and, oh, that didn't work. Wait, why didn't it work? Well, it did it not work because of this or because of this or because of that? Okay, well, let's go find out. And then making changes based on those things. And so kind of just like always, I don't ever feel like I've burned things down. I feel like it's just changed because it's always an improvement over the last thing I did because it's about staying curious. I don't think we talk about curiosity enough in entrepreneurship. Everybody just wants to be an expert. If you're an entrepreneur, then you're an expert in doing the thing.
Yeah. It's something that people have said in the reviews for this podcast that they like about it is that it's an opportunity to just get curious about things and to
Mhm.
dig in. And that feels like such a huge compliment, but it's so funny because it's not what I necessarily set out. Like, what do you hope people will take away from the podcast? Oh, I hope people will be curious, or I hope people will admire my curiosity. Like, I didn't think that, right? But it does feel like a compliment when I hear people say it. That's kind of funny. Yeah. Okay. So I guess that this isn't really like necessarily a contrarian perspective, but what are you curious about right now? Like, what are you exploring, following your curiosity about in your own business right now?
Well, I just did a freebie overhaul because for me, I was finding that folks weren't doing the whole thing, right? Like they weren't completing all the steps. And I do not think that's their fault. I mean, maybe a little bit, but mostly mine, right? Like I made it too big. And so I'm in the process of pulling that out and redoing that. And I'm also making a course platform because I couldn't help myself.
Yeah, well, as you're doing the work that you do, especially doing course platform reviews on your YouTube, it almost leaves you with no choice but to make something that
Hmm.
actually functions. And I feel like in this age, that is sort of where we are, is like when we're trying when and I feel like this about every kind of system. I have those thoughts of like, I just make my own. I haven't really found systems I love for like tech platforms I love for much of anything. And I think it's because you're an expert in like instructional design and like building learning experiences where adults actually learn stuff. I feel like it makes sense that that would be a particular frustration for you. So, yeah, I think that makes total sense. So, I don't know, I guess, what does that curiosity look like?
Usually, like for me, it starts with, oh, but, or what if, or could it? Right? It usually just starts with a small question and then kind of explodes from there. And then I do a lot of data collecting just from all over the place because I like to find patterns in things. And so gathering enough information that I'm not guessing, like I can point to things and say, well, I'm doing that because of this. And so making sure that I'm continuing to ask questions if I don't understand something.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, I'm reflecting on what I'm curious about in my own business right now, and it feels like this is like a vulnerable how vulnerable do you want to get on your podcast today, Sarah? I've got 3 of these to record. I feel like I'm in a place where I'm kind of curious about everything in my business. I feel like that's sort of what
Mm.
this year has kind of turned out to be, which that was not in my predictions for 2026, but turns
Not on
out
your bingo card.
I mean, as because you're helping. I'm curious about my onboarding experience. I'm curious about my client experience. I'm curious about my team structure. I'm curious about what roles even should exist and who's a good fit for those roles. I'm curious about my own role, like what that needs to look like. I mean, we're
Mm.
how do I say this? Experimenting with switching my role up completely in how we serve clients. And I'm excited about it. It feels refreshing. It feels different. It feels exciting to get to have a new job. That's what I keep on saying is I feel like I'm starting a new job this month.
You just didn't have
Um,
to apply for it.
yeah, I got to create it for myself. Mm. And I hope it works the way that we want it to, obviously. But
Mhm.
to your point about like assessing why things don't work, I mean, first of all, we had to assess why the structure I've been trying to make work for the past 2 years isn't working the way I wanted it to. And that's how we came up with this kind of
Hmm?
rearranging things, redistributing who's responsible for what and what roles, like I said, even exist, and then which one of those is mine. And I think that I'm open to, and I've been saying this a lot too, I'm open to the idea that, okay, so we're going to try this. Talk to me in a couple months or talk to me in a year, and it might look really different. Yeah, I'm open to that. I don't like it because I want, right?
Yeah.
I want to just win the game.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, interesting. So I don't know if we already kind of talked about this. I'm looking back at our contrarian questions. What business advice do you hate?
Well, my top one we did already talk about. I hate the shoulds. And like the typical of like you should post every day or
I
you
was
can
gonna
only
say
do
what
this on
specific
social
ones. Yeah.
media.
Okay.
Those are the big ones for me. I hate feeling like I'm doing something that matters and then it's going to disappear. So like I think that's why social media like typically drives me bonkers. I think I gave Instagram the good college try. I think I was on there for like 5 months and then I was like I'm done. I hate it and it disappears. So that for me that meant doing things that are longer form and more database style, right? I'm on YouTube. I have a blog. I now have a podcast.
Yeah.
So things that have more staying power, which it just feels so much better. Like, it feels like I'm not on, like, the hamster wheel of trying to create leads because I am creating leads in spaces or creating content in spaces where it it's gonna people can find it. Like, I
Yeah.
had a YouTube video from, like, 11 months ago all of a sudden get a whole bunch of traction.
Yeah.
So,
That's great.
I think
Yeah.
that's probably my biggest, like,
I love that. I have
I'm
said
telling people.
for a while now that I don't think of like that those long form platforms that you're talking about, and specifically because podcasting is what I do. I don't I don't think of podcasting as content per se. I think
Mm-hmm.
of content as social media content, and I agree with you, it's disposable. What I've been saying to people is it's like the newspaper that's in the recycling bin at the end of the night. Nobody's gonna see it again, right?
Yeah.
And to pour the emotional labor into and sometimes even, like, the physical labor into creating content
Mm-hmm.
is exhausting to me. That said, I do see value in all the different things, and you kind of pick the mix that works for you, and I
Yeah.
think whatever you're not doing, there's a layer of leaving money on the table because you're not doing everything, but you can't do everything unless you have, like, a team of 16 to 20 people and six-figure months to be able to pay them decent salaries so that they can all, actually, like, execute all of those platforms. Like,
Yeah.
nobody's doing all of the platforms well. You pick and
Yeah.
choose the mix that works for you, and so, yeah, obviously, like, I'm a big fan of a podcast, so
Really?
I also I agree with you. I hate the advice like you have to show your face. You have to post this many times a day. You have to post at this time of day. I do hate that. But I hate when people talk about how you do one thing is how you do everything. That's definitely not true because we all have limited bandwidth and we pick and choose what gets our attention. And what
Mhm.
I especially hate that is usually very closely tied to that is number one, that this misconception or this myth that this lie that you have to wake up super early and like journal and work out and meditate and eat a whatever protein smoothie and then like and then you do this many like then you check your email then you do that like having an early morning routine and that like this is what billionaires do and this is what you need to do to get rich and like oh I hate all of that advice in general but I especially hate the like you have to start at a certain time of day and your morning routine needs to work a certain way and related very closely related to that is usually I heard this podcast and I loved a lot of things about this podcast, but this particular episode, I've literally never been able to get out of my head, which is this idea that if you aren't in good physical shape, that's going to show up in your business. That like your physical health is related to your business health, and especially that your like weight is related to your business health. And this everything about this makes my blood boil, like and I feel like you're such a good person to bring this up too because of the conversations we've had about ableism and accessibility, but, like, oh, it makes me so mad, and it's, like, common. It's common thing people perpetuate in business advice. Oh, I really hate it.
I want to explode.
Do
Because,
it.
yes, first of all, what an ableist piece of shit. Like that they're even on a podcast saying those things. Number two, directly from that, the phrase, your health is your wealth,
Mm. Mhm.
that one gets me so bad because fuck you. Like, I have 3 chronic illnesses. I feel like shit half of the week. That does not equal my wealth or my value. Like to me, that's always what, like when they say wealth, they mean your value to
Value.
contribute to a capitalist society. And here we are, we brought it back in.
Or
Sarah.
your value as in the quality of your life. Like, that
Yeah.
your quality of life has to be less, and that's, first of all, so fucking depressing, and second of all,
Yeah.
really offensive and hurtful. Really offensive
Yeah.
and hurtful. I was just having this conversation with my mom. She had a minor I've been calling it a minor medical emergency, and it was. She was having a really crazy issue with her eye. It turns out she had, like, an insane scratch across her cornea, and it's been a
Mm,
whole thing. It's been horrible, and
mhm.
she was panicking on the day that she woke up with this issue, and I took her in for an emergency appointment, etcetera, and she was panicking that she was going to lose her vision, and I had to be like, "Number 1, I don't think that's what's happening, but number 2, even if it did, like, a lot of people live really great lives
Yeah.
without vision, especially in one eye. Like, It
Yeah.
would take adaptation, and I'm not going to say it wouldn't. Of course it would. The immediate, I think that those kind of phrases, like your health is your wealth,
Mhm.
that's what makes us feel like, and I've described about my own health journey, like with I developed asthma 8 years ago. Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Like 8 years ago, so I was fully an adult. I got a virus and I was sick for like 2 months. And at the end of getting better, what never went away was the asthma issue. And so I developed asthma as a result of that. And so I didn't have it as a kid. I didn't like, thank God, but also because it just breaks my heart thinking of kids struggling to breathe. And I just feel for all of you who suffered through that as a kid and all of you who have kids who suffer through that. It is really, really, really disruptive to not be able to breathe. But anyways, it's been an adaptation, but a lot of what I've experienced is grief. Grief, that's something that I
Yeah.
took for granted that I literally never had to think about is now something I think about most every minute of every day. And it's a basic function of being alive. And for someone to indicate that your health and wellness is a direct correlation to number 1, how much money you can make, but number 2, how good of a life you get to have. Oh, it just yeah, it's offensive. It's
My
offensive.
blood is literally boiling. Like, it is. And who who are they to get to say that that's how it is?
Yeah.
Like, why? Why do you feel like you get to have any kind of say over what anybody else's health, wellness, well-being is and how it impacts their lives?
That's such an interesting question actually, because you're saying it from a place of being offended and angry and wanting to explode, but actually when we go back to the curiosity piece, I think that's a really good, I don't know, practice, which is when somebody does say something that's really crazy, hurtful, and offensive in any space, but including in business advice, stopping and asking yourself, why might this person think that? What
Yeah.
might have led them to having this perspective or feeling this? Because we've all been victims of corporate capitalism and white
Mhm.
supremacy, and but it's probably coming from their own place of shame, baggage, whatever that they're grappling with. And really it says more about them than it does about you, right? And so like
Oh, yeah.
it's hard for me as a person in a plus size body with asthma, like I've had other health things. We all have our things. But that's the thing. We all have things. We all have things. And so to hear somebody kind of indicate that, like I don't like anybody telling me this is why you won't succeed and then or saying as a general post this is why you won't succeed and then I'm checking things off that list of like, "Oh no, I have that." Or I am that,
Yeah.
or I do that, or whatever, right? And so, like, I don't like waking up to an alarm. It's one of the best parts of being an entrepreneur. It's one of the number one reasons I can't imagine going back to a 9 to 5. But I also so, yeah, I think more personal, more offensive, more deeply hurtful is the, like, kinda health commentary. Oh, hate that business advice.
Yeah.
That doesn't even
Yeah.
feel like it has anything to do with business, but they correlate it to that.
They do. They absolutely do. And I think that for me, when I ask, like, who the fuck are you? Usually the answer that I come to is that society has told them that that is how it should be and that is how they should act, really. Because we do have in the US this, like, you can battle through, like, you battle health issues.
Yeah.
Right? But really, if you do have health issues, thinking about it as a battle is not like the most effective way, at least not for me. It's not the most effective way to think about like what I'm doing on a daily basis cuz battling is exhausting. Like I'm already fucking tired. I
That's
don't
exactly what
want
I
to
was
think about
just
this as a
thinking.
battle.
Yes, and that's where I started with criticizing this business advice, which is how you do one thing is not how you do everything. We only
Yeah.
have a limited capacity to give, right? And I think that's why that I know it was a viral thing years ago of having a limited number of spoons and how many spoons
Mhm.
does each thing
Mhm.
take, and then when you're out of spoons, you're out of spoons, right? Like we use that to explain like chronic illness and neurodiversity, but the reality is it's true for literally everyone. Like everybody has limited capacity. And you know that thing where they say you only have 100% to give. So if you're giving 40% here and 20% here and 10% here and 5% here, like what you have left is a limited number. I didn't add the numbers together that I
Yeah.
just put up
They
on
may or
top
may
of it.
not equal 100. But
So
also, your 100 looks different from my 100. Like from the
literally, and my
outside.
100 looks different from day to day. Like,
Yes.
some days things need more. On days when my asthma is flared up and I can't breathe or whatever chronic diagnosis anybody might
Mhm.
have, when my asthma's flared up, that gets way more of me than on days where I actually, like, I'll realize hours into the day, "Hey, I actually kind of forgot I was asthmatic for a few hours. That
Mm.
was really nice," right? Like, so I
Yeah.
think, on those days, it takes less from me. If something's going on with
Mhm.
your kids, if something's going on with my mom, if some like the day that
Yep.
appointment happened, if some like different things need more from you at different times,
Different
right? And I
times.
think
Yeah.
like when you're giving everything to I'm not even going to say one thing because that's impossible, but to some specific limited numbers of things, there's other stuff that's going to go by the wayside. So I could make the same argument, although I won't, but I could make the same argument that like, well, if you're not following the news and you're not following what's going on in this administration and you're not following what's going on in Congress, then you're destined to fail as like I mean I could say that, but at the same time, there's a certain level of survival mode. And if you're focused on your physical health and you're focused on your family and you're focused on your household and you're focused on managing your personal finances and you're focused on your basic hygiene and you're focused on your all these different things that go into your business and you wear all the hats because you're an entrepreneur, then I don't know how you could possibly also be following the news. Like, I don't know how you could do it. Something has to give, right? For me,
Yeah.
it's usually housekeeping. That's like a big one. Like, I hate it. Like when I was growing my business, like the beginning stages of growing my business, Eric said to me, "What can I do so that you can go make more money?" And literally, I have washed dishes less than 10 times since 2020 because of this. That the kitchen is his. He keeps it clean for
Mhm.
us. And it is just one less thing that I have to think about. I feel very, very fortunate in that. That has freed up a bunch of spoons to literally never think about who's gonna clean this up. Like Eric is. That feels great. So yeah, anyways, all of that to say, I think that that's my objection is like nobody can do everything the same way. So to say how you do one thing and is how you do everything is the exact opposite of true.
Yeah.
Ugh, just bugs me. Okay. Well, we are coming up on the end. So I do want to touch on this last point though, which is there's so much conversation, including between us, about optimizing things, systemizing things, automating things, outsourcing. We've outsourced to each other. So, but with that being said, kind of a blend of two things you can go with it where you want. What's become overly optimized in business slash what is something you refuse to automate, systemize, or outsource?
I refuse to optimize or I mean, I have a system, right? Like, and so it really depends on what you mean by systematize, but
Yeah, sure.
I have an onboarding form for my membership where I manually read what they have done before they join or after they've joined. And I give them feedback on it and I give them a personalized pathway through the curriculum because nothing does that yet. Nothing will do that. And even when it does, I might still do that because there's something about human eyes on where you are in a process that has to be personalized, right? Like, I'm not trying to sell all courses should look the same. Please don't have all courses look the same. And in order to make sure that that doesn't happen, I need to have eyes on what people are building so I can make recommendations based on what transformation they're trying to help their clients get to, what the goals are, the activities and steps that they're trying to take them through. Like all of those things, I think the problems with the course creation industry have stemmed from trying to optimize that too much, like making it a place of, oh, you don't have enough time, just package your expertise into a course.
Yeah.
And that has created all of these garbage courses. And I think that happens in places other than course creation when we try to optimize our time by having software platforms that do everything, but they do everything mediocre.
Yeah. I don't have a ton of experience with specifically course platforms, a little bit, but what I can say is I have felt that so much with other things, like calendar scheduling apps and invoicing apps and website hosting, like literally none of those tech platforms. I have not found a single one that I'm like, yeah, I'm genuinely just happy with this in all capacities. Like I can make stuff work, but nothing has ever felt like this is exactly what I need it to do. I do like my email service provider, and I'm not even name dropping number one because at this point they don't sponsor this podcast, although I would love it if they did. But also because different people need different stuff, so I'm not trying to sell you on the one that I use.
Mhm.
I've probably mentioned it on this podcast before, but I do like my email service provider. I genuinely feel like it does everything I need it to do. At the time that I was a little bit smaller, they had a free plan that worked exactly the way I need it to. I actually don't know if they still have a free plan because I'm not on it anymore, so I can't say. But their free plan literally did everything I needed it to up until 500 subscribers. And then 500 plus subscribers is a really reasonable monthly fee. So like
Mhm.
I feel really good about that, but that's the only one that I've found, like, tech that I genuinely am like, "Yeah, this does exactly what I wanted to, exactly what I'm picturing, exactly the way I need it to. I feel fine about this." Nothing else. So I get that about course platforms. That's crazy. Okay, so I love that you read those forms manually. I'm trying to think of, like, what the equivalent is in my business because there's definitely stuff that, like, and these are 3 such different categories: never automate, systemize, or outsource. There's things that I wouldn't do one of those, but I might do one of the others, right? And I think systemize, yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Yeah.
But one thing that comes to mind for me is responding to emails. Now, I probably
Mm.
could use a little bit more of a system to respond to emails because sometimes emails just get lost. But
Mhm.
I will say for the first time, I'm dabbling a little bit here and there, not consistently, but sometimes, depending on what's going on, with having someone on my team help me manage the clutter in my inbox.
Mm.
But responding, if you get an email signed by me, it's actually from me. Like
Yeah.
I literally am the one who responds to all my emails or DMs,
Yeah.
and I would wanna keep it that way.
Yeah.
I guess never say never, but I just can't imagine I feel like my ethics would say, if ever somebody other than me is sending you a message, you will know. Like,
You'll
it
know.
would
Yeah.
be from them, not me. So,
Yeah, I agree.
even if it came from my email address, you would know it
Mhm.
was from somebody
Somebody
else.
else.
So
Yeah.
I feel like that just is what something that matters to me a lot, and I'm not judging other people for doing what they need to do, and depending on what kind of business you run, etcetera, you may not need to be the one personally responding
Mhm.
to those things, but for me, I feel like that's one thing I can't imagine. I would also say, like, art, and I can't say writing because I think there's different types of writing. To your point about what we were talking about with content being disposable,
Mhm.
I honestly don't have a problem with generating content that's basically recyclable. I'm
Mhm.
sorry, and I hereby apologize to anybody who's listening to this who built a business on writing, like, captions and stuff for people that now feels frustrated that everybody's using AI for that. But I genuinely feel like for small businesses, if it's just going to get recycled in a 24-hour or even less social media cycle anyway, I don't think small businesses don't need to be paying somebody hundreds to thousands of dollars to be creating that content that's going to, especially if it's going to disappear, but even if it's just not going to get picked up in the algorithm, like I just don't see that being necessary. Now, that said, I still want it to be based on my own ideas, my own frameworks, my own words, my own I still want to be part of that creative process, but I think that's just a matter of like, do you know how to use and leverage AI well? And if you don't, then you're creating crap content, but that's okay because there was crap content before AI. I mean, like, that's one thing that has kind of driven me
Sorry.
crazy in the criticism of like, I've seen so many posts and like, love you if you posted this, but so many posts on threads of people saying your Claude carousels look like shit. Everybody's Claude websites look the same. And I'm like, I mean, people have had websites that look the same or carousels that look like shit forever. So that's not
Yeah.
any different. Just because it was made by AI doesn't make it worse shit than the shit that was
No.
well, some people would
Same
argue,
shit.
yes, it does, make it worse for other reasons, which okay. But, like,
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
far as quality of the post goes alone,
hmm
shitty posts have existed forever. Just scroll
Yeah.
by it. Like, I mean, I don't know. If it doesn't resonate, scroll by. If it does resonate, engage. That's just the name
That's
of
how social media has always been.
yeah.
Welcome.
Things were obnoxious on LinkedIn way before
Way before.
ChatGPT. So, I mean, now it's
Just now they do it with M dashes.
it literally. So, like, I people who are posting crap on LinkedIn that isn't interesting were posting crap on LinkedIn that wasn't interesting before AI. This
Before.
didn't make them worse
Yeah.
at writing. In fact, in a lot of cases, it actually made them better at writing. They just aren't connecting with people, but they weren't connecting with people before. So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Doesn't matter. I mean,
Yeah.
again, you can have other reasons for criticizing AI. That's totally fine. But anyways, so I can't say I won't use it for writing in a context like that. I would never use it to write a book. I would never use it to write a poem. I would never use it to write a song. I would never use it for like generating my book cover art. I would like
Mhm.
that's something I would personally not ever use that for. I know there's people who do, obviously.
Yeah.
But for me personally, that's something I would never
Yeah.
like automate or
I
manage.
I agree. And part of it for me is because when I first got out of higher ed, I felt like in my writing, it took me a while to shake the academic out of my voice and like have it just be me. And I'm
Yeah.
very hesitant to let that go. That being said, I have asked AI for help with form and structure, or I'll give it like to me, it's all about how you use it, right? Like I'll give it instructions. I want you to be the world's worst MFA instructor who is going to tear this apart. Can you give me a list of questions to answer in order to do this? Or can you tear this apart based on the plot or based on the dialogue or like whatever it is that I'm trying to work on?
Yeah.
Because then it's also not writing my words for me. It's just being a sounding board
Yeah.
in smaller steps than a person, right? So with like a developmental editor or somebody doing your copywriting, like you're less in it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Whereas with the AI tool, there can be more. I don't know how to dig into this memory, or I don't know how to make these connections. Give me questions
Yeah,
to
prompt
help me
me.
make those.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I like it
And
for
so I
that.
find it really useful for that.
I was struggling with it the other day because I used to really leverage so we've built these Claude projects for clients who have this specific, I guess, package. So not everybody, but we have these Claude projects for specific clients that create drafts for the different platforms that are important to them to be able to repurpose their podcast episodes. And
Mhm.
in a lot of cases, when you record podcast episodes, and you know this, you work way ahead on your podcast by the time you'd be promoting it on social media, you may not even remember what you actually even discussed with that person. And
Mhm.
honestly, that happens a lot of times. Even just by the end of the day, I'm recording 3 of these today. When I go turn these into my own team, because I don't edit my own podcast, when I go turn it into my team so that somebody else can do that, I will already forget what my like notes are, what my even just titling the episode, like I don't remember. There were 3 conversations that were great today.
Mhm.
So And that's the same day, let alone like weeks or months later. So in a lot of cases, creating the content repurposing just drafts and then letting them make it their own. They can post it as if that's what they want to do. But we've massaged this and refined this so that it's really, really effective to work for each specific client to try to give them the best drafts possible. Now, I had originally tested this on my own podcast. So my social media posts, when I used to be really good about promoting my podcast all the time, if you've been following me for a while, you may remember that. That was all supported by AI to like come up with these. But I haven't used it in so long. And I went in there and I was like, okay, I have some really good episodes that have been coming out lately. I want to be promoting these on social media. So like, okay, generate some of this stuff for me, some of these drafts for me. And it's like, this is not usable. Like I literally just straight up can't use this. So I did end up doing that, like going back and saying, hey, actually just give me prompts and I'll just write to it. Like that's going to work better for me. And so yeah, I love it for that. I think that's a great. I see people talk about writing books and saying they absolutely like won't work with editors or whatever who use AI. And I'm always like, use AI in what context? Number one, I understand don't put somebody else's work through AI without their permission. Totally get that. So as far as editors go, not using if an editor is just taking your manuscript, putting it in ChatGPT and then asking ChatGPT for notes, they're not editing. Like that's ridiculous. So totally get that. But not working with writers who have used AI. What do you mean? Like I'm working on multiple books and I like fiction and nonfiction that just have been ideas in my head. I use AI to workshop things, to as a place to keep notes, as a place to get pushback on like I don't know. I'm using it for so many things. I'm not using it to write. It's not writing my books. Like that's definitely, but I'm definitely using it. I'm using it to keep me organized. I'm using it to build out workflows. I'm using like, I mean, literally at this point, like I'm an AI user. Sorry if that makes you want to stop listening to this podcast, but I'm an AI user. I'm a big believer in it for accessibility purposes. And I just think,
I mean, I used it to explain how Notion works.
yeah.
Like, please just tell me. I know somewhere I have the schema for this. It's just not matching. And I was right. Like, it works like a spreadsheet. Pages, oh, they're everything. They can be folders. It's just, that's not explained anywhere on Notion's website. Or I even met with someone that's a Notion expert. And they couldn't explain the schema mapping, right? Like, and that's a basic learning theory, the schemas. And so that's a whole other tangent. We don't have to go down that one. But I used it to explain what it is. I told it what I know. Can you tell me what the words for these things are and what I'm missing?
Yeah. And I'll just go off saying, I mean, yes, fuck the tech billionaires who are getting rich off of the backs of artists without paying them or acknowledging them or getting their consent, and then using that money and that wealth to contribute to the rise of fascism, to strip us of our human rights, and to make our planet uninhabitable. Yes, all of that is true. And this technology is also like, I mean, it's helpful in a lot of ways. So both of those things for me are true. And yes, that's messy, but that's big, brave business.
I was just going to say that. It's like, if we don't end on a note like that, how is this a big, brave business episode?
For sure is. Yeah. Well, as always, thank you so much for hanging out with me and having like, let's talk about business in a big, brave way kind of a conversation. Obviously, you'll be back.
Obviously, I feel like you can't get rid of me.
I wouldn't want to. And also to you listening, thank you so much for being here. We want to hear from you. What business advice do you hate? What are some ways you think entrepreneurial culture is lying to you? And what are some things in your business that you would not automate or outsource or systemize? We want to hear all the things because we like to be troublemakers. We like to be contrarians about business. So anyways, okay, thank you so much and see you next week.